All right, welcome back to the Here's the Deal channel. Thank you for taking your time out of the day to join me for this broadcast. This is very important. I agree with John Eagle that this video that you're about to see needs to be seen by every cop in America. Actually, every individual in America. Because if we had in place what you're about to hear this ex-cop say during this speech, we would have a much better America, a much safer America, and a more prosperous America. And that's really what it's all about. So I'm fixing my lunch, and there's an alert that comes up that John Eagle is premiering a video, which happens to be this guy. His name is Sheriff, or ex-Sheriff, Jack Lamb, formerly of the Phoenix Sheriff's Department. And he apparently, I did a little bit of digging before this live stream, and he died at 69 years old in 2014. He was a military vet, and he retired from the Phoenix Police Department back in 1986. So when you see this video of him giving this speech from 1994, he had already been retired for almost a decade, but he still wore his uniform when he ran the circuit. And a lot of newspapers called this guy a conspiracy theorist. Apparently Alex Jones was, throwing around his name and using his information and playing his videos and all that. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what Jack Lamb actually says in this video. And we're going to play an excerpt of it, and I will give you, and I might interrupt a little bit, but I think it would be best just to listen to what Jack Lamb has to say, because it is so powerful, and he's an engaging speaker when he says things. You can tell people in the audience are listening. He's got some great anecdotes, he's got some great stories, but the bottom line is, the point of his speech is that cops do not know the Constitution, and fellow cops do not care to know the Constitution. And if any cop comes to the knowledge of the Constitution, and we're talking about specifically the Bill of Rights, and one of the ones that kind of outshines all the other ones in the Bill of Rights in McLamb's speech is the Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects. And you'll see how he weaves this into his story. But he is an engaging speaker, and he's somebody that I think I agree with John Eagle. Every single police officer, every single deputy, every single sheriff in the United States needs to hear what Sheriff Jack McLamb has to say. We're just going to go ahead and play this, and hopefully I won't interrupt too often, but there's some stuff that I really do want to express here. Let's take a look at this.
Let's get into it.
That night in Sun City, Arizona, I was talking about 35 people. They were retirees, wonderful people that were trying to protect their community there in their retirement center in Phoenix, Arizona, or actually Sun City, Arizona. Wonderful group. I was giving a talk on crime prevention in this police uniform. They had heard about my success in Phoenix. I created some crime prevention programs. We had set up over 100 block watches at the time. Block watches were just starting in police work, and they had been working very well. And I had been called out to Sun City to talk to a group of senior citizens about how they could protect themselves in their neighborhood. I was addressing this group, and in the back of the room, I saw a little man, a little frail old gentleman sleeping. Well, he was just really taking it easy. He looked like he was about 85, 90 years of age, and I thought, doggone it, I don't see any problem with that. Sometimes when I speak, I almost fall asleep. So he was sleeping away, and I finished about an hour program, and I said, are there any questions? And guess what? His little bony arm was the first one to go up. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, he's been asleep the whole time. What could he possibly have as a question? I figured maybe he had to be excused to go to the restroom. He's waving his hand. So I said, yes, sir, do you have a question? And the first word out of his mouth kind of hit me right in the face. He said, Now I'm here in police uniform. I'm looking bad. I'm I'm authoritarian. I'm looking like somebody important. And he says to me, "Sonny?" Sonny. He called me Sonny. And I said, "Yes, sir. What's your question?" And he said, "Sonny, do you take an oath?" Ooh, I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know. I said, "Well, of course I take an oath. Every police officer takes an oath." And he says, "Sonny, can you tell me what was in that oath?" And I thought, this is strange questions. Never been asked these things before. And I said, "Well," I said, "let me think." Now, I took it when I was in the military, and my police oath was very much the same. It said something about, I swear to protect the Constitution of the United States, defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I swear to protect the rights and the liberties of the people, their person and their property. Something like that. And he said, "Sonny?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "One more question." And I said, "Yes, sir. What's the question?" I thought, now he's getting down to business. Now he's getting down to business. "What's your question?" And he says, "Do you know the law?" And I said, I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with this? Am I missing something here? I said, "Sir, I just talked about the law for an hour." I said, now see, I knew he's sleeping. I said, "I think I know the law. No one knows all the law because it's changing all the time." I said, "But ask your question. What's your question?" He says, "So you know the law?" And I said, "Yeah, sir. What? Give me your question. What do you want to know?" And he says, "What's the Sixth Amendment to the Bill of Rights?" Ooh. I thought for a minute. I had no idea. I had no idea why he was asking such a stupid question. And he says, I said, "Sir, I don't know." He says, "What's the Eighth Amendment to the Bill of Rights?" And I'm an Irishman, you see. And when I start getting embarrassed, my face gets red, I mean really red, and I start sweating. And I started feeling this flush coming over my face. I had these people eating out of the palm of my hand. I mean, it had gone good for an hour, see? And who is this guy? I said, "Sir, I don't know what the Eighth Amendment to whatever you said. I don't know what you're talking about." He says, "What's the 10th Amendment to the Bill of Rights? What's the 4th Amendment to the Bill of Rights? What's the 5th Amendment to the Bill of Rights?" Now, I knew that I had the 4th and 5th Amendment in the police academy, but I couldn't think of what they were. I was too embarrassed. I was too rattled. And I said, "Sir, stop. I said, "I don't have the answers to your questions." I said, "Ask me something about what I was talking about tonight." What is with this guy? And then he gave me the coup de grace. He was waiting for this. This was where he was going the whole time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He said to me, "Sonny, how can you protect my rights and my liberties and the Constitution if you don't even know what they are?"
I love that. I love that. So let me get this straight. The protectors and servants of the people that people call the Thin Blue Line heroes of our community don't know the Constitution they're supposed to be protecting and serving and upholding. How can you protect and serve my liberties if you don't know what my liberties are? Great question.
Eat the IHOP House Faves value menu. Everything's just $6. Like the Breakfast Faves combo, $6. French toast breakfast, $6. $6 for all this and all that. That's a lot of breakfast for $6. Weekdays at IHOP.
When your question is actually a bunch of questions.
When's the best time this weekend to host a backyard barbecue?
I want to ding on my good credit, so I'm using Experian to find cards with no ding decline. See these? They...
How would you have felt? How would you have felt? I was destroyed. This man, this evil, evil entity that Satan must have sent into that meeting, surely it was the devil sent this man into that meeting. I am somebody. I'm Officer Jack McLam. I'm officer friendly across the nation. I am a neat guy. I didn't deserve this, Lord. I said, Lord, I'm not a bad guy. Why did you send this guy in here, Lord? You know, I just knew that the devil had something to do with that.
What I love about this is I think inadvertently he's revealing the heart of a true uniform psychopath, because that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, I'm a cop. Look at my uniform. I am your authority. How dare you question me? Who do you think you are, putting me on the spot and embarrassing me in front of all these people? I just think that in a roundabout way, inadvertently, he's letting us peer into the hearts. And we already know, because it's by their actions, by their fruits, you will recognize them, right? But we already know by the actions of cops what's actually in their heart, because from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks and the body reacts. If it's in your heart to grab somebody against their will who hasn't even violated one of the laws that you're supposed to be enforcing, if you grab them against their will and you exercise and exact violence on them, we already know what's in your heart. If you don't have a problem doing that, we already know you turned your mind off, you suspended your critical thinking, you put it on the shelf, and you've become one of the most dangerous human beings on planet Earth, and that is an order follower. So I think on some level, to some degree, this guy who seems like a nice guy, he seems like somebody you'd want as a neighbor, he seems like a grandfatherly type of guy that you would trust, has let us know exactly what's swimming around in the dark hearts of people who put on that utility belt, that uniform, that badge, and that gun, and believe that they have the authority to boss you around. This whole thing I found to be psychologically interesting, emotionally stimulating. I mean, at one point when I was listening to this, when John Eagle was premiering it, I got tears in my eyes, because I was like, imagine the possibilities that we could discover as a free America if law enforcement did just one thing: protect the people that they swore to protect. If they just did that one thing, we would be so fantastically prosperous. We would come into a new, epic of freedom, a new realization. If the cops not only just, aside from the truth that a cop gets his paycheck from theft, more specifically extortion, taxation. Aside from that fact, if they just did one thing, protect your rights, and then they went a little bit further and only punished people who committed real crimes, not people who broke a traffic law or some ordinance or some code or regulation. Imagine how great America could be if they just did that one thing. And one of the I'll tell you later what specifically brought the initial tear to my eye in what he said. So we'll continue with this.
And so I said, sir, I have no idea. Is there any other all I could say is there any other questions? And the place was totally silent. And finally somebody raised their hand and asked me some other questions, because they knew this man had drilled a hole and stuffed me in it, you know? I was Mr. Big Shot. I was the best in law enforcement. I was known across this nation. I could touch nothing that didn't worked. I mean, everything the Lord let me do worked. I don't know why. I don't know why. I have a high school education. You know, I flunked out of English more than anybody you'll ever know in your life. You know, the teachers voted me the most likely to collapse in life, self-destruct in life. And there was no reason for me to be doing the things I was doing. I wasn't prepared to do the things I was doing, but everything I touched was working. Now, why did this man come into my life? Well, I left that meeting that night, folks, and I was really in a bad mood. I can't tell you how bad a mood I was in. I was angry at that little old man. I couldn't understand why he would want to do that to me. I was embarrassed. It was terrible. First time I'd been embarrassed in front of a group of people. And I went home fussing and just saying things to myself and talking to the Lord all the way back to Phoenix, saying, Lord, I don't understand it. Why did this happen to me? Poor me, poor me. And for one solid month, folks, this old hard-headed Irishman couldn't understand the man's points because I was too mad. I was too upset. I had a bad feeling in my heart for this old gentleman. And my sergeant noticed my change in attitude. He says, Jack, what's the matter? You're always upbeat. You're always happy. You're always go, go, go. You're always on top of it. What's wrong with you? And I told him this story. My sergeant didn't understand it either. He says, why, that cantankerous old man, you know?
There's nothing quite like sharing a great meal with the people that matter most. Don't ask for permission. Don't stick to the...
Well,
Yeah, I don't want anybody to misunderstand why I'm playing this, okay? This guy did used to be a cop. People are pointing out, hey, somebody said that he was in drama in high school and is an actor. Check out his SAG enrollment, that's Actors Guild enrollment. That's not where I'm going with this. That's not the level I'm looking at this. These aren't the lenses I'm looking through. I'm looking at the lenses, or looking through the lenses of the possibility that if it was possible, and I don't know if it is. I mean, the landscape of tyranny looks pretty bleak for America. So if it is possible for a law enforcement officer, a sheriff's deputy to become enlightened and to have their heart pricked with the white hot sword of truth, and they realize the error of their ways and they actually start doing what their oath was, which, there's some complexities involved in that, because if you're swearing to protect and defend the Constitution, you're swearing to protect and defend all of it. I think you should be very specific about what your oath is, because it's so broad and there are a lot of things that you can easily disagree with. For example, Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes. Really? A band of evil men and robbers in Washington's District of Criminals has the power and the right to steal any percentage of my income or your income? No, ain't down with that. Where did they get that power and authority? And if they don't have it, which none of us does, then why don't other people have it? So I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to hone in on the possibility that if it was true that something could awaken inside of a law enforcement officer and it had a look, what would it look like, and what would be the positive? Because it would be nothing but positive if they were actually out there protecting people's rights and actually going after real bad guys instead of creating bad guys under traffic law or under rules, ordinances, codes, and precepts. That's all I'm looking at this. This guy may be lying about everything. That's irrelevant to me. He could be telling the truth about everything, or telling the truth about 50% of the things. That's irrelevant. My point is, there's going to be some things he's going to get into the weeds of actually not the weeds, but the meat of what we really need to be talking about. in a second. So just keep listening. So don't misunderstand. I'm not letting my guard down, although it's easy for people to do, and it's even easy for people to do. It's even easy for me to do at times. I'm not saying let your guard down around this guy. I'm not saying look at this guy with a healthy bit of skepticism. I'm not saying that this guy is a good guy or a bad guy. I'm saying that what he's saying is probably something that every law enforcement agent should consider whether his story is true or false.
A month, I was praying. I was praying every night, Lord, take this vengeful heart from me. Take this bad ill will I feel for this old gentleman. Take it away from me. I shouldn't, as a Christian, I shouldn't have these feelings. This is really bothering me. And I didn't know why. I should be able to forget it, but I couldn't forget it. And it took 30 days before I woke up one morning, and it was just like the old mule getting hit over the head with a 2x4. The Lord just cracked me on top of the head, and I woke up in bed one morning, and I had the answer. I had the answer, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the answer. The answer was I was wrong and he was right. I should have known my oath of office. Why was I told to take an oath of office that I knew nothing about? How could I hope to be successful at protecting the Constitution, protecting people's rights and liberties, if I don't even know what it is? And I swore to that oath twice in my lifetime. And I went to work that day and I said, Sergeant, I've got the answer. I said, this man, that I've been fretting about, he was right. We're wrong. We are violating people's rights. We're violating people's liberties. We're doing bad things to people. And my sergeant looked at me and his eyes got big and he said, Jack, settle down. He says, what's the problem? And I said, Sergeant, why did you make me swear an oath to something I knew nothing about? And my fine sergeant, he's a good man. He looked at me funny like and he said, Jack, that's just the way we do it. And I looked back at my sergeant. I said, Sergeant, that's a bad answer. That is a real bad answer. I said, I'm going home tonight, and I'm going to get a copy of the Constitution. I'm going to get a copy of the Bill of Rights. I didn't even know the Bill of Rights was part of the Constitution. I didn't know.
Put a 1 in the room if you think his sergeant was a good man with that kind of mindset. He had a mindset toward tyranny and away from liberty. His sergeant had the mindset of, no, we can take away people's rights at will. I mean, look at our uniforms. We have special rights and privileges because we have a uniform badge and a gun. We have a utility belt, for God's sake. We drive around in souped up police cars. We've got the radar machines. We've got all this souped up equipment to go after people who violate traffic law. You're wrong, Jack. Is that really a good guy? No, it's not a good guy. It's not a good guy, especially when they come to the knowledge of the truth and they don't practice that truth.
What do we know? We just go to government schools. We don't know this stuff. I'm going to get these things. I'm going to read them for the first time. And he says, go, Jack, go, do it. I don't care. Do it. And he was a little aggravated with it. He didn't see the point. He hadn't spent 30 days wrestling with this in his bed at night like I had for some unknown reason. I went to my local library, and it took them 30 minutes to find me a copy of the Constitution. They hadn't been asked for it in so long. I didn't think anything of that at this time, but it amazed me later to think that they had trouble finding a copy of the U.S. Constitution in our library in South Phoenix. And I took it home, folks, and I read it for the first time as an adult. And I'm telling you, I was awestruck. I was amazed at what was in that document. If you have not read those documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and those first 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights, you are in for a shock. You are going to be amazed what is in there. And I was amazed. I was shocked, matter of fact, because I had the proof now that I was a violator. I was a violator. I was a criminal in many cases where I was told to do things for the good of the majority, done things for the good of the whole of society. I had done things.
Do you hear what he said? He said, I was a criminal in many cases. Actually, he was a criminal in all cases. If his heart wasn't sensitized to guard and protect and defend the freedoms of the people he promised to protect and defend, then he was a criminal in all cases. And that's what we need to come to the conclusion of, guys. We need to understand, we need to just grab the bull by the horns and embrace the truth and embrace reality. When you've got cops aren't just violating rights, they are engaged in active police criminality. And the reason I use that terminology is because it's found in the conclusion of the matter in the Mullen Commission, where they investigated widespread systemic criminality in the New York Police Department. The NYPD was found by the Mullen Commission to be engaged in active police criminality. Their words, not mine. And this is 20 years later, after the Knapp Commission found that the entire NYPD was embroiled in top-down, bottom-up, systemic corruption. And it only got worse with the passing of time. So if the Knapp Commission was in the 70s and the Mullen Commission was in the 90s, how much worse do you think it is now in the 2024s? Yes, he is absolutely right, but he was being a criminal in all things if he did not understand and wasn't sensitized to what he actually took an oath about and the people he's supposed to be protecting and serving. This is such a telling tale of the real state of American policing today. And this is back in 1994. I guarantee you it's only gotten worse. And one of the ways we know it is not just because we have video cameras showing what cops are doing on a daily basis, but they are so corrupt and they're so bent on just following orders and enforcing their policies and enforcing the politicians' laws, most of which are evil, that they can't even help but commit crimes, and they do it on their own body cams and dash cams. Things that you would think they would take and redact and go, yikes, we shouldn't have done that. For example, Karen Garner. Not only did they abuse Karen Garner, who was clearly having mental issues, stealing $14 worth of stuff, or reportedly stealing $14 worth of stuff and walking out of Walmart with it, to the point where Austin Hopp and Daria Jalali and Sergeant Metzger all conspired against Karen Garner's rights, dislocated her shoulder, made her bleed, roughed her up, threw her into a cell for hours, and then sat outside and mocked her as they review the body cam footage of Austin Hopp and Daria Jalali beating her up, which resulted, by the way, in a $3 million lawsuit against Loveland, Colorado Police Department. And we've heard a lot coming out of Loveland, which should be renamed Hate Land, at least as far as law enforcement is concerned. They can't even stop their active criminality when they know they themselves are recording the crime. They're recording themselves committing the crime, and they still can't stop the crime. That's how we know it's really, really bad, because, you know, normal people feel shame for bad actions. It's almost like the cops are incapable of feeling shame. That's how far gone they are. And that's the danger, that's the cancerous tumor of order following. You're just a freaking order follower. You just turned your mind off. You're doing what you're told to do, and you're just exacting tyranny and criminality on people you're supposed to be protecting and serving. You're doing the exact opposite of what you said you would do, and you can't even help yourself. You know this body cam footage or somebody filming across the street is going to go out to not a nationwide audience, but a worldwide audience, and you still can't stop committing the crime.
Get tickets now.
So I want a new credit card to grow my credit. Now Experian can help me find credit cards with no ding decline.
Oh, Cole's mom, what do we think of these?
So you look like you're ready to walk the red carpet.
still can't stop committing the crime. That's insane.
Things to protect the system, because of course the people don't understand the system, and we have to do things to the people at times to protect the holy, most important system from the people. And now I knew, because I had read these God-inspired documents that our founding fathers had left as a legacy to the American people. And I went out of there that night, and I went back to work, and I said to my sergeant, I took the Constitution, and I showed it to my sergeant. I said, Sergeant, do you know what's in here? Do you know what this is? And he looked at it, and he says, Jack, it's a Constitution. I said, Sergeant, do you know what's in it? And he says, well, of course I know what's in it. Of course I do. I knew he didn't. I knew he didn't. I said, Sergeant, one question, just one question. Are we supposed to live by our oath of office? And he says, why, of course, McLam, we're all supposed to live by our oath of office. It's very important. And he gave me this little speech about the importance of our oath of office. And I said, that's what I wanted to hear, Sergeant. I'll see you later. And I went out on my beat with my Constitution. There it is here. There's my Constitution that I carried with me on my beat for all of those years. Little pocket Constitution. He told me I could live by my oath of office, and I believed my sergeant would never lie to me. I saw my lieutenant the next few days, and I said, Lieutenant, look at this. What is, do you know what this is? And he says, Jack, it's the Constitution. I said, do you know what's in it, Lieutenant? And he says, why, of course I know what's in it. I knew he didn't. I knew he didn't. I knew it. I saw my captain at the precinct. He's a commander.
By the way, I knew he didn't means I know he's lying to me. Why? Because that's what cops do. That's what politicians do. That's what used car salesmen, most used car salesmen do. They just lie to you. They can't dwell on the plane of truth. They can't live and breathe liberty and freedom and that which is right and noble and moral. They can't. Once they put on that uniform, they become something other than what you and I are. Because they literally believe that they have rights that none of the rest of us have. And so they get on this ego, this power trip, and they're operating up here, looking down at the rest of us, trying to get us on something, hiding behind that stop sign or hiding in that little crevice in that used car parking lot in the darkness, just waiting for somebody to go just a couple miles an hour of the speed limit so they can come up with the justification to pull them over and conduct their fishing expedition and then call for backup and then trample on people's rights. That is what they do for a living. And taxpayer money is supporting them. It's literally a parasitic proposition. They're parasitically living off the rest of us as they beat us over the head with their interpretation of the law, as they exercise discretion that favors themselves over the rest of us. Because you know, if the guy who they just caught speeding was a cop that they didn't know was a cop, all he's got to do is flash his badge, okay, have a good day. We see it in video after video every single day. None of this is a mystery, but guys, this gets even better and better as it goes along.
I said, Commander, look at this. Look what I have. And he looked down and he saw the Constitution. He says, yeah, Jack, it's the Constitution. So what? I said, Captain, do you know what's in it? And he seemed offended. And he says, of course I know what's in it. I said, Captain, let me ask you a question. Are we supposed to live by our oath of office as police officer? And oh my goodness gracious, you should have seen the reaction of that man. He believed in us upholding our oath of office. He gave me such a speech, it would have brought tears to your eyes about the importance of our oath of office. But like Officer McLam, he didn't know what was in these documents that we swore to in our oath of office. He told me, indeed, McLam, you will live by your oath of office, or you will be in serious problem with this department. I said, amen, Captain. Thank you, Captain. Thank you. And I saluted and I left. I went out on my beat to uphold my oath of office. Armed and now with knowledge, I thought I had a lot, but I had so little. I just read it a couple of times, and I'm ready now I'm ready, folks. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to protect you. Well, my next award tore my heart out. My next award that I received, the highest award in the city of Phoenix, matter of fact, throughout the whole state of Arizona in this category, within the next few years, I became the most fired police officer in the history of our state.
And that right there confirms what we have said. You gotta, I'm gonna stop saying there are no good cops, and I'm going with prove that there are good cops. The burden of proof is on the people who say that there are good cops to prove that there are good cops. Just like somebody asked it, if you want to tell me that there are unicorns who defecate flavored ice cream, then you're gonna have to prove to me they exist. If you're gonna try to convince me that there are good cops, you have to convince me that that guy is truly good. This confirms everything that we've been saying about cops and what we know to be true from, like I said, video evidence after video evidence, right on down the line. That if you actually become a good cop one day, by some miracle, you will be ostracized by the thin blue line. They cannot tolerate somebody protecting and serving and defending rights, while the other cops are in the business of doing the exact opposite. They can't tolerate that. And so they will be ostracized, or they will be fired, or they'll become the victim of what they call friendly fire. Oh, we got to go to Dennis and Regina Tuttle's house, and we got to go conduct a no-knock raid at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you become a constitutionalist and somebody who's going to actually defend rights, well, you may be, let's just say, caught up in the updraft. You may catch a couple rounds in your back.
I went from the most decorated police officer to the most fired police officer in the history of Phoenix, Arizona. And
I absolutely do not doubt that for 1 second.
It was all because of a little 85, 90-year-old man that had the nerve to embarrass me to tears in front of a group of people. Out of that, remember the ripples, folks. Remember the ripple effects. You won't know what you've done when you place something in somebody's hand, or you place a word on their lips that they will pass on to somebody else. You have no idea how the Lord can use that and multiply it today when people are hungering for knowledge and hungering for the truth like never before that we can think of. I had the truth. I had God. I had a love of my country, and I had the documents that God inspired in the hearts of men and in those constitutional conventions. And I did what my captain and my lieutenant and sergeant told me to do. I upheld my oath of office to the best of my ability, to the supreme laws of our land. And they fired me repeatedly for doing that, folks.
I do wonder how many times he got fired and if he can document that, because he did retire from the Phoenix Police Department. That's a pretty big police department to be fired from. So if he was fired that many times, I would like to see the proof of that. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that he got a lot of heat from his fellow boys in blue when you start, turning on them and you start doing what is right, when all they're about is doing what is wrong. I don't believe that. I don't doubt for a second that there was major pushback.
I had got so depressed one day, so depressed, because I loved my job, I loved the people, and I loved serving the people, but I was now banished almost. I was the worst officer on the department. I was just chastised all the time, persecuted all the time, because I would go out into the street, and I remember one day when 2 IRS agents came into my meeting and said, "Your chief told us to have you help us make this man's business." And I said, "I'm here to do my job."
Stay tuned for a couple seconds because it gets better. I don't know why they switched over to this camera B here. but they'll go back to camera A and the audio will get better.
I'll help you go take that man's business if you'll just show me your paperwork.
I don't know if you caught that. I missed this the first time around. Listen to the context he's talking about.
Hello, we are a band called the Ting Tings, and you might know us by this song. That's not my name.
Wondering if you could use your FSA for that? At FSA store, everything is guaranteed FSA eligible.
Listen to the context he's talking about.
I remember
one day when two IRS agents basically came into his jurisdiction to take a man's property away. Listen to this.
Their chief told us to have you help us make this man's business. And I said, I'm here to do my job. I'll help you go take that man's business if you'll just show me your paperwork.
I'm here to help you do your job. I'm here to help the IRS take away this man's business if you'll just show me your paperwork. That's the context. It was really hard to hear that.
Yeah. Their eyes got big. They looked at me like they'd just seen a ghost. And they say, what do you mean you want to see our paperwork? We're IRS agents, and they showed me their badges. We're from Washington, D.C., and we've got to go take this business over here, and your chief says you're going to go help us. I said, and I will. I promise you I will if you'll show me your paperwork. And so they fished around and finally pulled out a crumpled up couple white sheets of paper and said, here's our seizure notices and everything. And I looked over and I said, hey, this is a little strange. I said, this is a little bit perplexing. I said, you're Harold and you're Jones. And I said, your names are at the bottom of these seizure notices. And they said, yeah, our name's at the bottom of it. We're here to seize this property for the United States government. I said, let me show you something. Let me show you something. Powerful, powerful. God-inspired, powerful. And they said, what is this? What is this little book? And I said, well, wait a minute, let me show you. I said, read right there, it's in the book. And they said, what's the book? I said, it's the U.S. Constitution. You would have thought that they just saw the cross. Because they shrunk back when I said it was the U.S. Constitution.
I have trouble believing this particular story right here, but this is one of those things that brought tears to my eyes. Because imagine what our country would be like if we actually had cops, police officers, sheriffs, and deputies in a particular jurisdiction, and they wouldn't allow any federal entity or state entity or even local entity to come and lay a single hand on any member of their community unless they were shown that the person that they're coming after is actually guilty of committing a crime. And then my mind just runs away with this, and I'm like, imagine the possibilities if there were real protectors, if there were real guardians actually doing their job and actually going after bad people and actually telling people, hey, yeah, you may be a felon or a former felon, but you've committed the crime, you've done your time, and I know what the state and local and federal agencies say about you being able to own a gun. We're not going to infringe on your right because it says shall not be infringed, and that's our barrier. We don't go beyond that. Imagine the freedom possibilities. Imagine how much weight would be lifted off of your shoulders, knowing that we weren't ruled by tyrants, but we were actually protected by good guys with guns. And I'm not saying that this all falls on the shoulders of what is known as law enforcement or police or sheriffs or deputies, because anybody can do that. But I'm just saying, what if they got out of the way, let people be free, didn't throw them into cages for smoking burning plant matter or carrying anything that politicians said was illegal? And what if they actually became the protectors and the guardians and the servants that they're supposed to be? So that when any federal agent crossed the boundaries of their zone and try to come after one of us, they stand in place like Spartans. It's like, no. Enter at your own peril. And by the way, there's going to be a battle because we're fighting tooth and nail for the people that we swore to protect and defend. What if? That's where I get a tear in my eye.
Where did you get that? I said, out of my back pocket. Oh, is there power in this? And they said, well, we don't want to hear about the Constitution. I said, read that. And they read it, and it said that it would be signed by what? A magistrate, based on probable cause. Signed by a magistrate. And I said, who signed these papers? And they said, we signed them. Which one of you are the magistrates?
By the way, there's no mention, he's referring to the Fourth Amendment, there's no mention, I don't even know why he says this, and I don't know why people aren't calling him on it, but there's no magistrate mentioned in the Fourth Amendment. It just says, no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. And the implication is that a probable cause that a crime has been committed. Not because you didn't pay your, X amount to the IRS, but that a crime has really been committed. Not that you are behind on paying your traffic tickets or you didn't pay for that speeding ticket or whatever. No warrants shall issue but upon a probable cause that a crime has been committed, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched or the persons or things to be seized. But it all has to be under the umbrella of the commission of a crime, not the breaking of a politician's rule. And then have an agreement on what crime actually is. No crime can take place unless you can actually produce a victim who has a grievance against the criminal. Property stolen, property damaged, person hurt. If we could get our thinking straight and get our definitions, our terms defined, we could actually make some headway for liberty. And when you make headway for liberty, by the way, true freedom, you pave the way for major prosperity. Because if you're free to keep whatever you want to keep as far as personal protection device, and the cops in your area go, hey, that shall not be infringed. I don't care what you got. Automatic, AK-47, AR-15, high-capacity magazines, RPG. I don't care what you have. You have the right to keep and bear arms, and we don't have the right to infringe on your right to keep and bear arms. Can you imagine how free we would actually be? Do you think any band of criminals would be interested in coming into a jurisdiction and wreaking havoc on the community members there? If cops had the mindset of, we want our people, not our citizens, because they're not subjects of a city, they're not denizens, they're not our little peons, we are their servants, we're here to serve them, we're here to protect them, we're the guardians, we will watch over them. We're not going to hide behind billboards and try to get them every chance we get so we can increase revenues in the coffers of our department so we can get souped up vehicles and MRAPs. But we're here to protect them. We're here to lay down our lives for them. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down his life for his neighbor. And my neighbor are the people in my community. That's why I wear this badge. That's why I have this uniform. Not going to be like Andy Griffith and Barney, who are out there trying to arrest a guy at a vegetable stand right outside of city limits trying to make a living. Because they were Andy and Barney, as nice as they were, as wise as Andy's words were, as much of a good guy as you think Barney was. They were both tyrants. Wise tyranny is still tyranny. Nice guy tyranny is still tyranny, because they still wanted to kick that guy who was trying to operate a vegetable stand out from, making a living for his family. The guy at the vegetable stand on the side of the road in Andy Griffith was not committing a crime. He wasn't forcing people to do things that they didn't want to do. He wasn't endangering anybody's lives. He was trying to make a living. But nobody can see through that because they love Andy Griffith. We love Barney. Where's my bullet? Oh, that's hilarious. Nip it in the bud. But if we actually became sensitized to the fact of what freedom really is and what tyranny really is, no matter the mask that tyranny wears, because tyranny will wear a mask, and the tyrant will say, well, it's the welfare of the people. The welfare and the general welfare of the people will always be the alibi of tyrants. Always. It's always, the tyrant always, he never comes to you saying, hey, we're going to take away your freedom. Hey, we're going to make you insecure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. Hey, we're going to bang down your door in the middle of the night. They go, hey, vote for me. I'll make you more free and more prosperous. They always do that. I mean, second verse, same as the first. It's the recipe that keeps on giving, right? Same with these cops. Same with politicians. Same with every cruddy person who tries to worm his way into your life so that he can manipulate you and then dominate you.
No, there was not a magistrate among us. Powerful. So I put my Constitution in my back pocket and I said, listen, you guys, I know you mean well. I know you're doing the best you can do and you got a tough job. But I'm going to tell you this. My sergeant, my lieutenant, my captain have told me that I have to uphold my oath of office, which I took to the American people, not to government.
Why on earth would you have to tell somebody that your captain told you to do that? See, that's not coming from you. It's like, no, you know what? I took a freaking oath. I'm a person of my word, and let me show you by my actions. Don't believe what I say, believe what I do. I mean, don't even believe what I do. Note what I do, and what I do consistently, day in, day out, is I go after anybody who goes after my people. That includes people who might be wearing my same uniform. That's what a good cop would look like. If you dare give that woman or that guy a $150 or $250 or $300 speeding ticket when they weren't jeopardizing anybody's lives, and you know you do it too, fellow Thin Blue Line member. If you dare do that, I'm coming for you. That's what a good cop, like if there was a good cop, that's what he would look like. That's what he would say. Those would be the actions that you would see consistently in his life. How come we don't see that? Well, you answer that question.
Sleek AF?
It's pronounced sleek as...
Here we go! Watch me go!
And you took the same oath. And they looked at me. They didn't know what to say. And I said, you guys, get out of my beat. And don't you come back until you know what your oath of office says, and you are going to support your oath of office just like me. And I sent them out of that beat. And they disappeared, and that man's business was saved that day from an unlawful act, a criminal act on the part of our government. These officers, I'm sure, have been brainwashed just like I was, folks. They're not bad officers, these two guys that come here. They have been trained that what they're doing needs to be done to save America because they see America declining.
Are they really not bad officers? I mean, can we really give them that slack? Hey, can we let them hide behind the distraction and the smoke screen and the hall of mirrors of, I was just doing my job. Hey, I don't make the laws, I just enforce them. In other words, I don't care if they're evil, I don't care if they're good. I just turn off my mind, and whether they're evil or good, I enforce them. So I do it indiscriminately. I don't care. Only an evil person would say that. Only an evil person would take the ring of power and then take that power and abuse it to the detriment of others. Only an evil person would do that. Because that's the essence of every crime. You're forcing somebody against their will to do something they don't want to do. Whether you're talking about a rape, whether you're talking about a murder, whether you're talking about theft, you're doing something to somebody else that you wouldn't want done to yourself and that they don't want done to themselves. And that's what cops do. Cops don't want to see blue and red lights behind them. Cops don't want to be interrupted and harassed during the regular course of their day. Cops don't want to be issued fines, and yet they'll do that to you. Cops don't want to be tased. Cops don't want to be profiled. Cops don't want their cars to be searched. And if you doubt this, just ask them. Hey, is there anything in your vehicle, like if you see a police officer like pull up beside you at a gas pump or something, just ask him. Hey, you don't mind if I take a look in your car? Do you have anything in your car that you shouldn't have? Any contraband? Any burner phones? Anything that you might have that might make the department look bad? No, I don't. Well, then you don't have anything to hide. I'm going to go ahead and search your car. See what they say about that. Hey, you're scaring people with that gun and that badge that you have. People have PTSDs because they've seen tons of videos on YouTube and on the internet showing that you guys don't care about us and that you would beat us at the drop of the hat. So I'm gonna have you, put your hands behind your back. Keep your hands where I can see. Don't put your hands in your pockets. I need to take that firearm from you. Try that with a cop. See what happens. Do to them, in other words, what they don't have any problem doing to you. If you did to cops what they constantly do to us, you would be seen as a criminal. And the people who would identify you as a criminal for doing the very same thing that cops do to you, if they identify you as a criminal, that's exactly right, because you're actually violating somebody's will. What do cops do? They violate your will. You don't want to be pulled over. You don't want to be harassed. You didn't threaten anybody, harm anybody, steal anybody's property, yet why are they pulling you over? When you were doing 11 miles an hour over the speed limit, they do that every single day without going to an emergency. If they caught a cop doing the exact same thing you just got doing, they'd let him go. No repercussions. You know it.
The enemy's telling them, well, you got to do these things to the American people to save the nation. And of course, they love America, so they're going to do those things to you and me because they've been told that if they don't, America will collapse. So they're out there committing criminal acts, committing immoral acts against you, not because they're evil people, most of them, but because they don't know.
I got a real problem with that. If you violate somebody's will and you don't know that you have done that which is evil because you are an evil person, then you are a psychopath. You lack empathy. You lack those basic characteristics that all normal human beings have to realize that what you just got done doing is abjectly, absolutely, 100% objectively, provably evil. And if people are doing evil, then the people who are doing evil are evildoers. That makes them evil. I don't care what good you thought you were doing. I don't care if you think that you're keeping the highways and byways safe by pulling people over who aren't jeopardizing lives, because you already know that you jeopardize lives every single day. As a matter of fact, you jeopardized many lives when you had to go faster than the person you just pulled over for speeding just so you can catch up to him. Let's say you're doing 70 in a 60 and you pass the cop. He's at a dead still. He's going 0 miles per hour. You just passed him at 70. How fast does he have to go after he's waited for a couple cars to go by in traffic on the side of the interstate? How fast does he have to go to catch up to you who are probably still doing 70 miles per hour? I bet it's in excess of 90. So you're going to give me a ticket for the very thing you just got doing? And if it's unsafe for one person to be speeding on the road, isn't it twice as unsafe when there's two people on the road? It's just so, being a cop and doing the things that cops do is so antithetical to freedom. It's so against reason and wisdom and knowledge. And it is downright evil. So for a person to tell me that an evildoer doing evil is not evil is trying to tell you, don't believe what your eyes can see and what your ears can hear.
They just don't know. But praise God, thanks to you folks, just like that 85, 90-year-old man that came to me when I needed to know and gave me the truth. And you have done the same, many of you. And you've caused ripples across America. Now listen to the ripples. Not only did I save people's property, where before I would have gone in and taken it, I would have aided and abetted these criminal acts by the federal officers. I would have probably helped at Waco because I didn't know. I would have believed what I was told, that these people are evil. We just don't know. Think of the ripples. What happened then, as I became persecuted by my own department, and I began to be chastised, and I was followed. I was assigned a sergeant to follow me night and day for 9 months to try.
All right, did you get that? He was chastised by his own department. He was being followed night and day by his own department. They actually assigned an officer. I think he's going to say a sergeant. They assigned an officer to tail him, to get him on something so they could fire him from the department. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, he's already said, these people aren't violating your constitutional rights and throwing you into jail and harassing you and tasing you and doing all these things because they're evil. And yet he's the very one who's standing there saying, I'm now a good officer and I'm doing good things. And because I'm doing good things, as a direct result of protecting the people, I'm being chastised by my own people in my own department. If that is not the definition and the epitome of evil, then there is no such thing as evil. So he basically wants you to let go of the truth so you can believe his lie. Now, I'm on board with some of the stuff that he's saying, but I don't believe that this is an honest individual. Because, you know, it looks like he's coming at it from a religious perspective, looking through a religious lens, and it seems to me that his audience is Christian. So if you just take what the Bible says, you will know by their actions, by their fruits.
At Big Green Egg, we believe in bringing people together. Because there's nothing quite like sharing a great meal with the people that matter most. So this summer, head outside and make more than meals. Make memories.
Famous around the world, please welcome the fantastic.
Oh, by their actions, by their fruits, that's your actions. By what you do, you will know them. A good tree brings forth good fruit. And a bad tree brings forth bad fruit or evil fruit. From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks and the body acts. So if evil stuff is coming out of a person on a continual basis, and that's what his whole profession is, then he is an evil person. If goodness is coming out of you on a consistent basis, and you're calling out the evil, and you're having no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather exposing him like he sounds like he's doing with the people in his own department, exposing the evil, then the people that he's saying are not really evil are evil. This is so, when you start skating down the halls of statism, I don't care if it's leftism or rightism, but statism or authoritarianism, it really messes up your brain. You can't live in a consistent moral manner. because you will constantly be inconsistent and immoral in your presuppositions and in your actions, in what you say and in what you do. That's how it works. You're forever inconsistent. You're forever living in hypocrisy. You can't tell the truth to save your life because you don't know what truth is. And the reason you don't know what truth is because truth isn't residing in your heart.
Try to find some reason to fire me. Off duty, on duty, I had a sergeant assigned to me at that time, making $45,000 a year, and he was assigned to me to try to find some reason to fire me. Because I was doing one thing. I was serving and protecting the people. Even, or rather, let's say from all criminals, even from those in government. I didn't realize how many people had been hurt and destroyed by our government, by people in this uniform that has sworn to protect them and their families.
That right there, gotta be honest with you guys. I mean, call me a fool, but that right there got me. Because you think about all of these people that have gone to jail, whether they spent days in jail, like Chile, 180 days for what? Kevin Strickland, 43 years in jail for what? And you guys knew he was innocent? And the two guys that you caught back in the 1970s actually committing the triple homicide only got 10 years each, and Kevin Strickland stayed in jail for another 33 years after that? And this lady that just got out in Missouri, she's the longest wrongly incarcerated woman in America, just got out of a Missouri prison after 43 years. Not only did she not commit the crime, but the person who actually did commit the crime was the law enforcement agent who was investigating her. Everything they put in their reports about this woman that they just released and declared innocent was a lie. It was a damn lie. So when this guy says this kind of stuff about imagine how much evil just in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, let alone the last 50 years of American policing, how much injustice has been done? How many lives have been ruined? How much property has been seized? How many people have been destroyed? And it brings a tear to your eye because it's like, it didn't have to be like this. But it only happened because people were willing to just follow orders, do what they're told. You know, people will not come to the knowledge of the truth if their paycheck depends on them not understanding and coming to the knowledge of the truth. As long as they're getting paid, it's like a guy I talked to in St. Louis. He was a police officer at an event. He wasn't a security guard, he was a police officer. And I was like, dude, do you not realize, and this is back in 2014 or 15. It's when I released that first viral video called Open Carry Chicks. Remember when we went into that, I can't remember what part of Missouri that we went into that Walmart to go get some lunch, but it's when my daughters and her friends, we all open carried, and Missouri is a constitutional carry state, but for some reason they called the cops on us when we were in Walmart. They were in Subway. I was going to get something from the deli, and they come to find out the cops come, and they got their AR-15s drawn on my daughters. I didn't even know it was happening on the other side of the store. It's around that time. So I asked this St. Louis cop, I said, you guys do so many wrong things. You guys ruin so many lives. You know what he said to me? Hey man, as long as I get a paycheck. He didn't say ... it really doesn't matter to me, but that's the implication. Basically, I don't really care as long as I can feed my kids. As long as I can feed my kids in the back of tyranny and taxation, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. So as long as the man is making money, truth and freedom, liberty, the Constitution, doing what is right, morality, none of that stuff matters to him, because all that matters to him is serving his God so that he can get a paycheck and feed his family. And what I said to that St. Louis officer is, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you are actually helping to usher in more tyranny that will destroy you and your family. Your kids will be less free in 10 years because of the tyrannical actions you're doing today. Do you understand that? He didn't want to understand it. He doesn't want to understand it. Why? Because that's how he makes his living. He makes his living by not understanding that. He makes his living by not coming to the knowledge of the truth. And there's a lot of people out there like that.
And I realized then that tyranny cannot come to the door of any American unless it comes in uniform, folks.
Oh my gosh. So John Eagle, thank you for uploading this. I want to go back like 30 seconds. Listen to what this is so freaking powerful, because whether he thinks this is true or not, it is true. This is what we've seen. This is what a lot of you have experienced. This is what revenue generation is all about. I don't care about your freedoms. We're going to get our Bearcat. We're going to get our heavy weaponry. We're going to get our souped up patrol cars. Listen to what this guy says.
Or I would have gone in and taken it. I would have aided and abetted these criminal acts by the federal officers.
Criminal acts by the federal officers. Listen very closely. This is so freaking... This is one of the most important things this guy said.
I would have probably helped at Waco because I didn't know. I would have believed what I was told, that these people are evil. We just don't know. Think of the ripples. What happened then as I began...
That's what I was telling that St. Louis police officer. Think about the ripples in the pond that you are right now disturbing. Think about those ripples that your children will feel. The cold blade of tyranny is going to rest upon your kids' necks because of your actions. Whether you see it now or tomorrow or next week or not, it's coming. It's coming for you. Because you didn't do the right thing. Because you threw your moral compass out the window of your squad car.
Became persecuted by my own department. And I began to be chastised, and I was followed. I was assigned a sergeant to follow me night and day for 9 months to try to find some reason to fire me. Off duty, on duty, I had a sergeant assigned to me at that time, making $45,000 a year, and he was assigned to me to try to find some reason to fire me. Because I was doing one thing. I was serving and protecting the people. Even, or rather, let's say from all criminals, even from those in government. I didn't realize how many people had been hurt and destroyed by our government, by people in this uniform. That is...
How many people have been hurt and destroyed by our government, by the people in this uniform? Wow. Wow.
Sworn to protect them and their families. And I realized then that tyranny cannot come to the door of any American unless it comes in uniform, folks.
God! Tyranny cannot come to the door of any American unless it comes in a uniform. Oh my God.
Folks.
So thank you, John Eagle. I really appreciate you upload that video. Every person in America needs to see this video.
This is what happens to a woman's body if she skips breakfast for a week.
I mean, breakfast is setting up your entire day for one of...
Okay, YouTubers, sorry about all the interjections of the podcaster. I mean, it would have been a lot nicer to just listen to the guy speak. I do have a full version of him speaking, which I'm thinking about putting that up instead. But if I don't, a lot of stuff he was saying is really good to hear and to recognize what's going on even today. This was back in 1994. Super guy. He seemed very sincere about what he has done and what he has realized. And I have sent this to the sheriff of our town in Wabash, Indiana, and I have yet to have any response from him. It's a shame, but everybody should see this. This is very, very strong. Hey, subscribe, give me a like, pass this on so a lot of people can see this. Love you guys.